Picture this. You have spent 2 years grinding cold calls, hundreds of dials every week, and your phone is still quiet. No new clients, no real pipeline, just a wall of voicemail and gatekeepers. Then, almost overnight, the polarity flips. Assistants who used to block you start calling you, begging to book appointments. The only thing that changed was one decision: to let voice AI take over the cold calls you used to hate. This is the story of how that killed the classic cold call and why it might be your escape route, too. Christian, a cold calling agency owner in Germany, lived that before and after. For 2 long years, he was stuck in what you could call the cold call graveyard. Same scripts, same tools, same promises, but a market that had quietly maxed out. Cold calling there had become very, very full, as he puts it. Too many agencies, too few prospects willing to listen. But here is the twist. The thing that rescued his business was not a better script. It was a YouTube video about voice AI that he almost scrolled past. To understand why that video mattered, you need to see the trap he was in. Cold calling had turned into a commodity. Anyone with a cheap customer relationship manager, a script template, and a low-cost caller could sell the same thing. When every pitch sounds identical, price races to the bottom and margins disappear. More effort did not mean more deals for Christian, just more rejection and more psychological tax. And here is the pattern break. The real problem was not his skill. It was the math of a saturated outbound market that was never going to love him back. Think about the daily reality he faced. Immediate hangups, assistants trained to block him, prospects who had already heard the same offer 3 times that week. Every extra euro of revenue demanded exponentially more effort. That is diminishing returns in real life. Meanwhile, what every agency owner secretly wants is the opposite of that grind. You want inbound. People who already know what you do, already feel the pain, and show up asking how fast you can start. In a minute, you will hear how voice AI flipped his funnel so hard that gatekeepers started chasing him instead. One random day, YouTube served Christian a video titled, "The Moment He Realized Voice AI Could Actually Make Money." At first, it sounded like more hype. Another shiny tool, another promise. But his skepticism cracked when the creator, Janice Moore, stopped talking about features and started talking about outcomes. Voice AI that could do real cold calls, qualify leads, and only send serious buyers to humans. For someone who had spent 2 years doing that manually, it hit like a system error. What if software could do the worst part of his job all day, every day? Here is why that idea was so powerful. In a very full market, Christian could not win by dialing harder. But if he automated cold calls with voice AI, he suddenly had something different to sell. Not more calls, but a 24/7 inbound engine. A system that could answer after hours, qualify leads, and book appointments while humans slept. The video reframed voice AI from gadget to business model. And this is where the stakes get real. Because if you are still selling manual cold calling while your competitor sells always-on voice agents, who do you think gets hired next? The YouTube video did one more crucial thing. It did not just sell Christian a dream, it handed him a doorway into a real community. The call to action was simple: join our community. Inside, he found builders sharing call flows, troubleshooting weird edge cases, and posting real deployment stories. There were weekly question and answer calls, templates, and mentors like Henrik who would actually follow up on half-finished ideas. That depth signaled that this was not a throwaway course. It was an ecosystem. And in a moment, you will see how that turned a non-technical founder into a voice AI specialist. Christian did not wake up one day with a profitable AI agency. Before the boot camp, he had already bought another program, copied its templates, and technically built voice agents. They ran, but he did not understand why they worked, how to debug them, or how to adapt them to real clients. Voice AI Bootcamp changed that by forcing him to learn the logic under the hood. At first, he understood maybe half of the technical talk on the live calls. Instead of bailing, he leaned in and asked what he called stupid questions. Here is the pattern break. He proved you do not need to be an elite developer to win in voice AI. Within a few weeks, those questions paid off. Christian moved from tweaking variables in templates to rearranging whole call flows. A few months later, he was building custom solutions from scratch for industries with high call volumes. Mentorship added accountability too. Henrik would ping him with, "What is up with this?" and push him to ship instead of just study. That is how passive learning turned into working agents that actually answered calls, booked appointments, and generated inbound leads. The real insight here is simple. Time and persistence beat raw talent when the tools are this accessible. Then came the flip. For 2 years, Christian had been background noise. Assistants stonewalled him with, "They are not available," until his pipeline flatlined. After deploying voice AI to handle high-volume outreach and qualification, the polarity reversed. Now those same assistants call him and say, "We have high call volumes. Can we book a meeting?" The hunter became the hunted. And this is not just a feel-good story. It shows you exactly what happens when you stop selling effort and start selling capacity. Notice how the sales psychology changed. Before, Christian was pitching a generic cold calling service in a crowded market. Now, assistants reach out already naming their pain. Too many calls, not enough humans. That problem is urgent and easy to measure in lost hours and missed revenue. Instead of defending their calendars from yet another agency, prospects are protecting their teams from burnout and their customers from long wait times. The question on calls is no longer, "Why should I care?" It is, "How fast can we roll this out?" In a minute, we will break down the exact services his modern voice AI agency sells. Cold calling agencies used to sell time on the phone. Christian's voice AI agency sells outcomes. His core menu is simple but powerful. First, lead qualification. Voice agents call old or cold leads, ask structured questions, tag intent, and pass only the ready-to-buy people to humans. No more wasting hours on tire kickers. Second, after-hours support. Most local businesses still miss 30 to 50% of calls outside 9 to 5. His agents answer at 11 at night on a Sunday and turn dead time into revenue. The third pillar is appointment setting. The voice agent checks calendar availability, proposes time slots, confirms by text or email, and writes back into tools like Google Calendar. For dentists, clinics, or trades, that means fewer no-shows, no double bookings, and no receptionist chained to the phone. The business model is deliberately boring. Monthly retainers plus usage fees, not one-time lifetime tricks. Clients pay for a production-ready agent and a per minute or per call rate that scales with volume. Here is the key stake. That recurring model makes your agency predictable and hard to undercut. Christian also avoids one common trap. He does not sell AI as a novelty. He sells fewer missed calls, cleaner pipelines, and reception costs cut by 20 to 40%. Clients do not care about model architecture. They care that unqualified leads stop wasting sales time and assistants stop drowning in calls. That is the difference between a cool demo and something a business can bet payroll on. And here is the part most people miss. 2026 is shaping up to be a gold rush for exactly this kind of voice AI operator. Why call it a gold rush? Because the need is already painfully clear. Businesses want every call answered, every lead qualified, and labor costs under control. But there are still very few agencies that can deploy production-grade voice AI, not just show a flashy clip. Analysts expect global conversational AI spend to blow past $30 to $40 billion by 2026, with voice interfaces taking a bigger slice every year. When that wave hits, founders and clinics will not search for tools. They will search for operators who already survived the bugs and compliance headaches. And the tech itself is about to level up. Insiders talk about foundation models that treat audio, text, and context as one fluid stream. Imagine voice agents that sound less like robotic phone menus and more like competent staffers who remember details. Once that hits mainstream platforms, every mid-market company will ask, who can implement this safely for us? That is where the real opportunity lives, not just in building bots, but in consulting on workflow redesign. In a moment, I will give you a simple roadmap for your first 6 months in voice AI. Most clinics, law firms, and trades businesses have no idea which calls to automate, how to hand off to humans, or how to measure return beyond it feels faster. That is your opening. The real money comes from stitching voice AI into lead qualification, after hours and overflow coverage, customer relationship and ticketing systems, and reporting that proves revenue impact. If you can walk into a client and say, here is the script, the integration map, and the key performance dashboard, you become the trusted expert. This is not about selling AI. It is about selling clarity in a noisy, confusing market. So, what do your first 6 months in voice AI actually look like? Christian's Path offers a blueprint. Start with working templates instead of blank screens. Join a serious community where you can ask messy questions and see real workflows. Ship small agents fast, even if they only handle one narrow use case. Then, layer on understanding. Learn why flows are built a certain way, how to handle accents, bad connections, and weird edge case questions. The goal is not perfection. It is to get 10 to 20 agents live before the big wave hits. If you are still running a classic outbound agency, this might be your silver plate moment. Demand already exists. Businesses are drowning in calls and losing money on missed opportunities. What is missing is not interest in AI. It is operators who can turn hype into working phone systems. Christian went from ignored cold caller to inbound magnet because he stepped into that gap early. The question is, will you? Or will you keep fighting over the same saturated pool of prospects while someone else becomes the voice AI person in your niche? Here is the bottom line. Cold calling, as you know, it is fading into the background, but the need for conversations is bigger than ever. Voice AI did not just save one struggling agency, it exposed a new kind of business model built on automation, community, and production-ready systems. If you want more deep dives into voice AI tools, real deployment stories, and step-by-step breakdowns of how to build